Welcome, fellow travelers, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're setting a course for a galaxy far, far away. A universe so vast and captivating, it's not just a collection of films, It's a tapestry woven from millennia of epic conflict, incredible heroism, and that eternal profound struggle between light and darkness. When you hear Star Wars, you instantly feel the weight of history, don't you?
Absolutely. It's a universe that's brimming with history, and its sheer scale can feel, well, incredibly daunting to truly navigate and understand sometimes.
And that's exactly our mission today for you. We're here to give you a shortcut, sort of a definitive chronicle of the complete official lore of the Star Wars galaxy. Think of this as your personal guided tour. We're extracting not just the facts, but the pivotal events, the critical character developments, the mind-bending technological advancements, and the foundational world-building elements that make this saga so incredibly enduring. We're going to help you connect all those dots into one coherent picture.
Yeah, our goal isn't just to list facts off a page. It's to provide clarity and hopefully those genuine aha moments. So you feel truly well-informed, equipped to understand the nuances of any Star Wars story without getting completely bogged down in information overload.
Okay, so what can you expect on this ambitious galactic journey? First, we're going to get our bearings establishing the critical navigational charts for understanding Star Wars continuity. That means the official canon and how dates are structured, because without that, you're essentially lost in hyperspace, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally lost.
Then we'll dive into the foundational pillars that quite literally hold the galaxy together. We're talking the Force itself, ancient orders like the Jedi and Sith, and the key technologies that define galactic civilization.
And finally, here's where it gets really exciting. We'll embark on a chronological journey through the major eras, connecting the dots of history from the dawn of the Jedi right up to the very edge of the future we know so far.
This deep dive is designed for you. Whether you're gearing up for a rewatch, trying to catch up on all the incredible lore coming out, or just immensely curious about how all these pieces fit together into one grand narrative. So, let's launch. So, to begin our exploration, let's first talk about the very structure of the Star Wars galaxy story. It's not quite as simple as just everything that ever happened. There was this pivotal moment, a real-world galactic shift that redefined everything.
Indeed, and this is where many listeners who've been with Star Wars for a while will definitely remember a significant shift. On April 25, 2014, Lucasfilm, now under Disney ownership, made a landmark decision to, restructure Star Wars continuity. For decades before that, what was known as the Expanded Universe, or EU, had grown into this massive collection of novels, comics, video games, stretching thousands of years before and after the original films.
Oh, yeah, and it was truly vast, wasn't it? Like a sprawling, beautiful, but sometimes chaotic, wild west of lore. If you were a fan trying to follow it all, it could be a real challenge, right? There were different tiers of canonicity, sometimes contradictions. It created a rather fractured narrative if you tried to make sense of it all. So what was Lucasfilm's goal in making such a huge change?
That's precisely it. The old EU, while deeply beloved by many, many fans, wasn't always a single cohesive narrative. The stories occasionally clashed, and creators sometimes had to perform these narrative gymnastics to fit new tales into existing lore. The 2014 decision aimed to streamline all that, to create a clear, unified narrative framework for all future Star Wars storytelling. This resulted in two distinct categories.
Right. So, on one side, we have Canon. This is the official, authoritative timeline, the single story everyone at Lucasfilm now adheres to. It includes, obviously, the original 6 George Lucas films, the animated film Star Wars, the Clone Wars and its amazing TV series, and crucially, all subsequent films, shows, books, comics, and games produced from that point forward. The key here is that everything created after April 2014 is guided by the Lucasfilm Story Group.
Mm-hmm. Their job is basically to ensure it all fits into a single cohesive universe where every story matters, where it all connects.
Okay, and then the pre-2014 EU is rebranded as Legends. So these stories are no longer considered official continuity. But it's important to stress they weren't just tossed out, were they?
No, not at all. They're preserved as an alternate timeline, a really rich library of what-if scenarios, and honestly a source of inspiration. While new Legends content isn't generally produced, with very rare exceptions like the ongoing Star Wars, the Old Republic MMORPG Lucasfilm explicitly reserves the right to draw characters, concepts, and story elements from Legends and reintroduce them into the new canon.
Ah, now that's fascinating, because it means that even though those stories aren't official anymore, their spirit can absolutely live on in new ways, often in modified forms, I imagine. But doesn't that make things potentially confusing again for the listener if old elements keep popping up?
That's a very fair point, and Lucasfilm seems pretty careful about it. The key thing for you, the listener, is to understand this fundamental division. We're focusing today on the canon. The beauty of it is that they can draw from legends, but when they do, those elements are sort of recanonized, brought into the fold, and become part of the unified narrative. It's not a return to the old Wild West.
I see. So it's like a clean slate, but they have this great history book they can cherry pick ideas from.
Exactly. It ensures clarity and a consistent universe for fans to enjoy without that constant worry of contradictions. Honestly, it's the single most important organizing principle for understanding modern Star Wars lore today.
All right, with our canon compass set, let's talk about anchoring ourselves in time. The galaxy is vast, obviously, but it still needs a standardized calendar. And the one used in Star Wars lore is surprisingly intuitive once you understand its singular anchor point.
Absolutely. The entire galactic timeline, everything we're going to talk about, is anchored to one incredibly pivotal event, the Battle of Yavin. You know it well. It's right there in Star Wars. Episode 4, A New Hope. That moment, the Rebel Alliance, with Luke Skywalker at the controls, destroyed the first Death Star. That spectacular victory marks year zero.
Got it. So everything before that event is designated as BBY, stands for before the Battle of Yavin, right? And the dates count backward from year zero. So like 32 BBY happened 10 years before 22 BBY, a bit like a countdown.
Precisely. And conversely, everything after the Battle of Yavin is designated as ABY, or after the Battle of Yavin. These dates count forward, just like our standard calendar. So 4 ABY occurs 1 year before 5 ABY. It's remarkably straightforward once you grasp that central point.
And why does this matter to you, our listener? Well, this BBY-ABY system provides the precise chronological framework for every significant event we'll discuss today. It lets you accurately place any story, any character, any moment within the galaxy's vast history. It's truly like the Rosetta Stone for Star Wars dates, making sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Without it, the timeline would be, an even more confusing mess than the old EU sometimes felt.
Definitely helps keep things organized.
Okay, now that we've established our navigational coordinates and how to read the galactic clock, let's dive into the foundational pillars that actually hold the galaxy together. These aren't just background details. These are the core concepts that define Star Wars, the very fabric of its existence.
And at the very heart of everything Star Wars is, of course, the Force. It's described as this metaphysical and ubiquitous energy field that's created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, and binds the galaxy together, forming the basis for those extraordinary sort of supernatural abilities wielded by the Jedi and the Sith. It's not just a power source, it's like a cosmic tapestry.
Right. It's often talked about as this mystical energy, but the canon gives it a really interesting, complex, almost symbiotic nature. It's not just one thing, you see. We actually have two interconnected aspects, don't we? The living force and the cosmic force. How do those two halves work together?
Exactly. The living force is the immediate, tangible energy that's generated by every living organism, from the tiniest microbe within a cell to the largest creature. It's the raw, vibrant energy of life itself, constantly being born and, well, dying. This energy then flows into the cosmic force, which is the grand ethereal totality. The cosmic force is what maintains the balance of the universe and communicates its will to sentient beings, often through visions, intuition, prophecy, that sort of thing.
So it's a cycle.
Precisely. This duality is crucial. Life creates the Force, and the Force, in turn, guides and shapes life in this continuous, almost sacred cycle.
And the bridge between those two, the thing that often sparked quite a bit of discussion when it was first introduced, are midichlorians. These came up in The Phantom Menace, and they're described as intelligent, microscopic life forms residing within cells. They act as conduits, you said, allowing the living force to flow into the cosmic force, like tiny biological antennas. What's the real implication of that?
Well, the midichlorians serve a very specific purpose in the lore. An individual's potential to feel and wield the Force is directly proportional to their midichlorian concentration. While all life contains them, only those with a sufficiently high count can be trained to become a Jedi or a Sith and perform those truly extraordinary feats. It reframes Force sensitivity somewhat.
How so?
It moves it from being a purely spiritual gift to having a quantifiable potential. It suggests this fascinating dynamic where destiny, your innate, count, and choice, the rigorous training, the philosophical alignment, are both crucial. Anyone might be Force intuitive, subtly using it for luck or good timing, but those extraordinary feats require that biological predisposition that makes certain individuals naturally more potent.
What's also fascinating and often misunderstood, I think, is that the Force itself isn't inherently good or evil. It's how it's used, the intent behind the actions, that defines these two opposing philosophies. The light side and the dark side. This isn't just about powers, it's about perspective, isn't it?
That's a critical distinction, yeah. The light side is aligned with peace, compassion, selflessness, living in harmony with the will of the Force. Practitioners like the Jedi act as guardians, defending life, maintaining balance, striving for collective well-being. The dark side, on the other hand, isn't an inherent part of the Force's balance. It's viewed as a corruption of the Force. It's fueled by selfish and passionate emotions, fear, anger, hatred, aggression.
The bad stuff.
The bad stuff. Followers, like the Sith, seek to dominate the Force, bending it to their personal will to achieve power and control over others, rather than serving some greater cosmic purpose. The abilities themselves might sometimes appear similar. I mean, telekinesis is telekinesis, but the fundamental distinction is the intent behind their use. The will to be selfless versus the will to be selfish, to give versus to take.
Okay, this brings us to a really important core concept, especially for understanding the whole Skywalker saga, the prophecy of the Chosen One and what balance truly means for the galaxy. For a millennium, the Jedi believed in this prophecy of a Chosen One, a supremely powerful Force user, conceived by the Force itself, destined to destroy the Sith and bring balance.
Right, and this is where the critical understanding of balance comes in, because it's often misinterpreted. It does not mean an equilibrium between good and evil, like the galaxy needs an equal number of Jedi and Sith running around.
That wouldn't work well.
No. Instead, it implies the elimination of the corrupting influence of the dark side, specifically the Sith, who unnaturally twist the Force to their own selfish, destructive ends. The Sith are seen as a cancer on the Force. Balance means removing that cancer. This prophecy became this huge driving force for the Jedi, a beacon of hope that ultimately culminated in the life, the fall, and the ultimate redemption of Anakin Skywalker.
So these opposing philosophies, the light and dark sides, naturally gave rise to the galaxy's two most powerful Force-wielding organizations, the Jedi and the Sith. Their histories are just inextricably intertwined, aren't they? Born from a common origin, but driven apart by these irreconcilable beliefs. It's really a story of how a divergence in ideology can fuel millennia of conflict.
The Jedi Order was founded way back, approximately 25,025 BBY, on the remote, watery world of Ahch-To by a figure known only as the Prime Jedi. Early Jedi philosophy based on ancient murals found there actually appears to have been centered on balance, acknowledging both light and dark as necessary components of the Force.
Interesting. So not quite the strict light side focus they had later on.
Exactly. These first Jedi weren't just philosophers, they were explorers, using the Force for navigation and discovering sacred worlds like Ilum, which was rich with kyber crystals and Jedha. Around 25,020 BBY, this ancient architect droid, Professor Huyang, was activated. He was commissioned to store lightsaber construction knowledge and guide generations of younglings through the sacred ritual of building their first weapon, a crucial role he'd fulfill for thousands of years.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, and frankly a bit ironic, considering where they ended up. This early pursuit of balance by the Jedi eventually shifted, didn't it, dramatically? The Order moved toward a strict adherence to the light side, seeing the dark side as this absolute evil to be purged, rather than a natural, albeit dangerous, part of the Force. And this dogmatic change led to something cataclysmic, the Great Schism and the eventual birth of the Sith. What exactly happened there? What drove such a profound division?
Well, a major philosophical schism fractured the Jedi Order. Around 5,000 BBY, a faction of Jedi started delving into the dark side's potent abilities, desiring more personal power, believing passion wasn't something to be suppressed but mastered. They broke away. This triggered the 100-Year Darkness, a brutal, century-long civil war that ultimately ended with the Dark Jedi's defeat and exile.
And where did they go?
These exiles fled into the uncharted and dangerous unknown regions. There, they discovered Moraband, also known sometimes as Korriban, a desolate world inhabited by the native Sith species. These were red-skinned humanoids with a natural, potent affinity for the dark side already.
So we get this really fascinating cultural fusion here. The exiled Dark Jedi, with their superior technology and, frankly, more refined Force mastery, subjugated the native Sith species. Over centuries of interbreeding and cultural fusion, Sith stopped referring just to a species and instead became the ominous name of this new dark side order, an empire built as the direct antithesis of the Jedi and the burgeoning Galactic Republic.
Yeah, and the emergence of this Sith empire triggered millennia of devastating Sith wars. We're talking vast armies clashing across the stars in epic galaxy-shaking conflicts. These wars weren't just about conquest, though. They spurred immense technological and tactical innovation. The Mandalorians, for instance, developed their iconic lightsaber-resistant Beskar armor specifically for Jedi combat during this period.
Oh, makes sense.
And the Sith, in turn, learned to use kyber crystals not just for lightsabers but to power devastating superweapons, showcasing their destructive ambition early on.
But for all their power, the ancient Sith Empire had this fatal flaw, right? It was inherent in its own dark philosophy. Personal power, ambition, betrayal. It led to constant, debilitating infighting. Apprentices would mercilessly overthrow masters, warlords battled for supremacy, constantly undermining their own strength.
Exactly. And this internal strife ultimately weakened them, allowing the Jedi to seemingly defeat them around 1032 BBY. But that wasn't the end. That's when Darth Bane steps onto the galactic stage, with his ingenious, horrifying rule of two.
Right. Bane was the lone survivor, wasn't he?
He was. A lone survivor of the Sith's apparent annihilation at the Battle of Ruusan. He recognized this fundamental flaw in their philosophy, that their inherent lust for power made them self-destructive. So, to correct it, he instituted the rule of two. Only two Sith Lords at a time. A master to embody power, and an apprentice to crave it.
And the apprentice's job was basically to kill the master eventually.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
The apprentice's solemn duty was to eventually challenge, kill, and replace their master, then take on their own apprentice in turn. The brilliance of Bane's rule of two wasn't just its secrecy, but how it weaponized the very flaw that had always plagued the Sith ambition. By limiting their numbers, he ensured this brutal meritocracy where only the most powerful and cunning survived. They could secretly hone their dark side knowledge for 1,000 years without exhausting themselves in petty squabbles. It turned their greatest weakness into their ultimate strength.
Transforming them from a self-devouring empire into this clandestine, patient conspiracy, plotting their revenge against the completely unsuspecting Jedi.
Wow. Okay, so beyond the Force itself, the political structures and galactic powers have fundamentally defined galactic life for millennia. They dictate how billions live and what conflicts ultimately unfold. It's a testament to the idea that even in a galaxy full of space magic, politics can be the most powerful and sometimes the most dangerous force.
Absolutely. For most of known history, the galaxy was governed by the Galactic Republic. We're talking a span from approximately 25,000 BBY all the way to 19 BBY. It was this vast federal democratic union of thousands upon thousands of member worlds, presided over by the Galactic Senate on the massive cityscape planet of Coruscant. For millennia, it was genuinely a golden age. It maintained peace and justice without a large standing military, relying almost entirely on the Jedi Order as its peacekeepers, diplomats, and guardians of the law. But, like all things, it wasn't destined to last forever. In its final centuries, the Republic became, well, tragically sclerotic and corrupt, didn't it? Bureaucratic gridlock, immense corporate influence. It hindered effective governance, especially disenfranchising the worlds of the Outer Rim who felt ignored and exploited.
And this systemic decay created the absolute perfect environment for the Sith to enact their revenge. Senator Shee's Palpatine masterfully exploited his weaknesses from within. It's a classic tragic tale of internal rot leading to external collapse.
Which brings us inevitably to the Galactic Empire, reigning from 19 BBY to 5 ABY. Its rise was directly orchestrated by Palpatine, the culmination of that 1,000-year Sith plot. Through the political chaos of the Separatist crisis and the devastation of the Clone Wars, both engineered by him, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine consolidated near-absolute power.
And after issuing Order 66 and wiping out the Jedi, he declared himself Emperor and reorganized the Republic. The Empire was an autocratic, frankly fascist dictatorship, explicitly modeled on historical totalitarian regimes, but on a galactic scale. It governed through fear and overwhelming military might, a philosophy known as the Tarkin Doctrine.
Which emphasized the threat of force over its actual use, right? Keep systems in line through terror.
Exactly. The Imperial Senate was quickly reduced to just a rubber stamp body and then dissolved entirely. Power was vested in ruthless regional governors, the Moffs, who answered only to the Emperor.
Then, following Emperor Palpatine's death and the Rebel Alliance's decisive victory at the Battle of Endor, a new hope emerged. The New Republic, which existed from 5 ABY to 34 ABY, it was established with the noble goal of restoring democratic principles, righting the wrongs of the Empire. But it was fraught with immense challenges from the start. What were the critical missteps here that ultimately proved so dangerous?
That's a crucial question. Fearful of repeating the mistakes that allowed the Republic to fall and birth the Empire, the New Republic rapidly demilitarized. A noble sentiment, perhaps, but it left them largely unable to effectively police the galaxy or stamp out persistent Imperial remnants, which were far more organized and dangerous than anyone really realized at the time.
Plus, they had internal problems too, didn't they? Political paralysis.
Huge internal problems. Infighting between two major factions. The populists, who favored planetary autonomy and a decentralized government, and the centrists, who advocated for a stronger central government and a more robust military. This ideological gridlock effectively paralyzed the Senate, preventing decisive action on almost anything important.
And this weakness, this inability to maybe learn the right lessons from history, had dire consequences. It allowed those imperial loyalists secretly rebuilding in the unknown regions to emerge as the First Order, a militaristic junta built on the ashes of the empire.
And the New Republic's ultimate downfall came when the First Order, in a devastating move, used Starkiller Base to annihilate its capital, the Hosnian system, crippling its ability to respond to a galaxy-wide threat. It's a stark lesson in how idealism, when it's unchecked by pragmatism, can lead straight to catastrophe.
Okay, so beyond the grand political and force movements, certain key technologies and distinct cultures have profoundly shaped galactic history. They've become engines of change themselves. They're not just background details. They're vital characters in the grand narrative, wouldn't you say?
Oh, undeniably. And the single most transformative technology, without a doubt, is the hyperdrive. Developed way back around 25,000 BBY, likely by reverse engineering technology from the ancient force-powered Rakatan Infinite Empire, the hyperdrive allows starships to travel faster than light.
How does it actually work again?
Well, it functions by propelling vessels into hyperspace, which is essentially an alternate dimension with different physical laws, enabling near-instantaneous travel between star systems. The invention of the hyperdrive made galactic civilization possible, period. Without it, you couldn't have a unified republic. You'd just have isolated star systems, maybe communicating over decades or centuries.
Wow. So it led directly to the Republic's formation.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Early explorers painstakingly mapped safe hyperspace lanes, creating the trade routes that connected thousands of worlds and fostered interspecies commerce, diplomacy, everything.
And then we have the iconic lightsaber, the elegant weapon of Jedi and Sith. It's far more than just a fancy sword. It's such a powerful symbol of their skill, their connection to the Force, their very identity. Its evolution is fascinating, too, from those crude proto-sabers that needed external power packs.
Right. To the modern, self-contained weapons we know today. At the heart of every lightsaber is a kyber crystal, a rare, force-attuned crystal that focuses energy from the power cell into that plasma blade. For a Jedi, constructing their lightsaber is a sacred rite of passage. It's a deep meditative process requiring them to use the Force to assemble the components in perfect alignment.
And the blade color, that's determined by the wielder's connection.
Generally, yeah. Jedi bond with their crystals, typically producing blue or green blades, sometimes other rarer colors. Sith, however, cannot bond with them. They must dominate the crystals through the dark side. This process causes the crystals to bleed, turning them that fearsome red.
And over millennia, all those different combat forms developed too. 7 distinct forms, each with its own philosophy. Like defensive Ceresu or aggressive Juavapad.
Exactly. Each suited to different temperaments and situations. It's a whole discipline in itself.
Okay, another incredibly influential group, more a creed than a race, really. The Mandalorians. A legendary culture of warriors united by a common code of honor hailing from the planet Mandalore. Their history is just one of near-constant conflict, most notably those ancient brutal wars against the Jedi Order. It's a culture forged in fire, isn't it?
Absolutely. Those very wars forced them to develop their iconic armor, forged from the near-indestructible Beskar or Mandalorian iron. It withstands blaster bolts and, crucially, even lightsaber strikes. A key symbol of Mandalorian leadership is the Darksaber.
Ah, yes, the black-bladed lightsaber. Unique.
Very unique. Created by Tari Vizsla, who was the first Mandalorian inducted into the Jedi Order. Tradition dictates the Darksaber cannot be given only one in combat. Its wielder is recognized as the rightful leader of all Mandalorians, potentially binding their often warring clans under one banner. It's a tradition that has sparked countless conflicts and power struggles throughout their long history.
And finally, we can't ignore the shadowy forces operating in the lawless fringes. Criminal syndicates. In the galaxy's unregulated territories, far from the reach of the Republic or the Empire, these vast organizations often hold immense power, shaping entire sectors through fear and greed.
The oldest and most influential is probably the Hutt cartel, a sprawling empire controlled by the slug-like Hutts from Nal Hutta. For thousands of years, they dominated smuggling, slavery, illicit enterprises across the Outer Rim, particularly on planets like Tatooine. They were virtually untouchable for much of history.
But others rose too, didn't they? Like during the Clone Wars.
Yes, during the Clone Wars, a new power emerged. The Shadow Collective. This was a confederation of various syndicates brought together by the cunning former Sith Lord Maul. After the Collective's collapse, its most powerful element, Crimson Dawn, survived. Under the public leadership of Dryden Voss, but secretly guided by Maul, it became one of the galaxy's top 5 syndicates.
And after Maul's death.
Following Maul's ultimate death, his former Lieutenant Kira took decisive control. She transformed Crimson Dawn into this clandestine network with a surprising, ambitious new goal: to actually destroy the Sith and liberate the galaxy from their shadowy control. It showcases how even criminal enterprises, maybe driven by personal vendettas, can evolve beyond pure profit and become a significant, albeit dark, player on the galactic stage. #J3, a chronological journey through the Star Wars canon eras.
Okay, now that we've laid the groundwork, we've got the foundational pillars of the galaxy down: the Force, the orders, the political powers, key technologies. It's time to embark on our chronological journey. We'll chart the major events, character arcs, societal shifts, structured according to the official eras Lucasfilm uses now. This is where all those pieces really start to click together.
Right. This is truly the age of myth and legend, a vast, largely unexplored period spanning over 24,000 years. It witnesses the birth of the galaxy's most important institutions and the beginning of their eternal defining conflict. It's really where the very notion of galactic civilization takes root.
And it starts way back, around 25,025 BBY, with these almost simultaneous monumental events that would shape everything to come. On the remote, serene world of Ahch-To, the Prime Jedi establishes the Jedi Order, dedicated to studying the Force and seeking balance.
And concurrently, in the bustling core worlds, hyperdrive technology, likely reverse-engineered from those ancient Rakatan designs, allows for practical, faster-than-light travel. This isn't just a technological leap, it's a societal revolution.
Connecting disparate star systems.
Exactly. Leading directly to the signing of the Galactic Constitution on Coruscant and the formation of the Galactic Republic. Suddenly, the galaxy is truly a galaxy interconnected.
Shortly after, around 25,020 BBY, the nascent Jedi Order commissions Professor Huyang, that architect droid, to store lightsaber construction knowledge and guide generations of younglings through the sacred ritual of building their first weapon. He'd fulfill this crucial role for millennia, a silent witness to the Order's triumphs and tragedies.
But that early serenity and focus on balance, as we mentioned, wouldn't last. Around 5,000 BBY, that deep philosophical schism fractures the Jedi Order. A group of renegade Jedi, lured by the desire to master passion and the dark side's potent abilities, breaks away.
Triggering the 100-year darkness.
Right, a brutal century of civil war ending with the Dark Jedi's defeat in exile into the unknown regions.
And these exiles flee to Moraband, that world steeped in the dark side, where they discover and subjugate the native Sith species, adopt their name, and found the first Sith Empire. This isn't just a new empire, it's a dark mirror of the Republic, built on conquest and personal power.
And in this same chaotic period, expansionist Mandalorian crusaders, these true warrior nomads, clash violently with the Jedi, beginning the long and bloody Mandalorian Jedi Wars. To counter the Jedi's lightsabers, the Mandalorians perfect their Beskar armor, making them incredibly formidable opponents.
Okay, let's fast forward thousands of years now to see 1032 BBY. After nearly 4 millennia of devastating warfare, the seemingly endless Jedi-Sith war culminates. The Jedi launch a final, decisive campaign leading to the Battle of Ruusan, which appears to annihilate the Sith Order entirely.
And in the aftermath, the Republic, utterly weary of war, undergoes the Ruusan Reformation. This is a radical demilitarization, entrusting security entirely to the Jedi Knights as peacekeepers and diplomats. This seems like a triumph, but it's where the insidious seeds of future vulnerability are really sown.
Because the Sith weren't actually gone.
Not entirely, and this is where the real genius and horror of the Sith's survival comes into play. Unbeknownst to the galaxy, a single Sith Lord, Darth Bane, survives the Battle of Ruusan. He recognizes that the Sith's downfall was their endless infighting, their inability to cooperate, so he institutes the chilling rule of 2.
Only 2 Sith Lords, Master and Apprentice.
A master to embody power, an apprentice to crave it. The apprentice's duty is to eventually challenge, kill, and replace their master, taking on their own apprentice, ensuring an unbroken line of power while also constantly strengthening it through this brutal meritocracy. This adaptation transformed the Sith from a self-devouring empire into a clandestine conspiracy, allowing them to operate in secret for 1,000 years, patiently plotting their revenge against the unsuspecting, demilitarized Jedi. It was the ultimate long game, played perfectly.
Okay, our journey continues, bridging that vast gap between the ancient Sith Wars and the Skywalker saga with the High Republic. This is often heralded as a golden age for the Republic and the Jedi. This era, spanning centuries before the familiar films, was a time of unprecedented exploration, optimism, expansion into the Outer Rim, championed by visionary leaders like Supreme Chancellor Lina So. The Jedi were really at their zenith here, true guardians of peace and justice.
Yes, but this bright light cast some deep, insidious shadows. This era ultimately exposed vulnerabilities within both the Republic and the Jedi Order, setting the stage for future falls. The narrative of the High Republic is structured across 3 distinct publishing phases, giving us a comprehensive look, and it actually begins with Phase 2, Quest of the Jedi, around 382 BBY. This phase delves into the early origins of the Nihil, starting with this peculiar cult known as the Path of the Open Hand.
Right, the Path of the Open Hand. They were a Force-worshipping cult on the Outer Rim planet Dalna that preached this radical philosophy. Let the Force be free, believing any deliberate use of the Force by beings like the Jedi was an unnatural abomination, a dangerous manipulation.
The cult was led by a charismatic, quite unsettling figure known only as the Mother. And 2 cousins, Marta and Yana Rho, were central to the conflict. Marta became increasingly fanatical while Yana grew disillusioned, sensing the darkness within the cult's core.
And their activities culminated in this devastating clash with the Jedi on the holy world of Jedha, a spiritual nexus for Force sensitives. Here, they unleashed terrifying creatures known as the Nameless, or Shriekerai.
Yes, Shriekerai. Beings that feed on the Force itself, capable of calcifying Force sensitives into empty husks. Horrifying. These events revealed the Mother's deeply personal vendetta against the Jedi and led to Marta Rho seizing control of the cult's remnants, setting her family's dark path to eventually produce Marchion Ro, the future, far more dangerous Nihil leader.
Yeah.
It's a chilling origin story for a galactic menace.
Okay, then we move to Phase 1, Light of the Jedi in 232 BBY. This kicks off the era's main narrative with a cataclysmic event, the Great Hyperspace Disaster. The massive freighter Legacy Run is destroyed in hyperspace, sending shrapnel hurtling at near light speed across an entire star system, threatening billions of lives in the Outer Rim. Just an unprecedented disaster.
And the Jedi responded with breathtaking heroism. Master Avar Kriss, using her unique Force abilities, created this vast network of Jedi minds, coordinating a massive rescue effort across the Hetzel system, saving countless lives. But the disaster was quickly revealed as the insidious work of the Nihil, these ruthless marauders, led by the enigmatic and brilliant Marchion Ro, who basically weaponized hyperspace itself.
How do they do that?
The Nihil possessed a unique technological advantage. Paths, secret, uncharted hyperspace routes calculated by Ro's captive navigator, Mari Santeca. These allowed them to appear and disappear at will, making them an unpredictable and terrifying threat. Key figures like Jedi Master Stellan Gios and Elzar Mann and Padawan Bel Zedifor became deeply embroiled in this widening conflict.
And this is when Starlight Beacon was dedicated.
Yes, the magnificent Starlight Beacon space station, the centerpiece of Republic expansion, was dedicated as a grand symbol of hope and a vital Jedi outpost in the Outer Rim.
But the conflict then escalated dramatically in Phase 3, Trials of the Jedi, from 231 BBY to 229 BBY. Marchion Ro, ever the architect of chaos, orchestrated a devastating surprise attack on the Republic Fair on Valo, a grand showcase of galactic unity and technological achievement. This shattered the era's fragile peace and brutally demonstrated the Nihil's destructive capacity. That was covered in The Rising Storm, right?
Correct. Following this, Ro unleashed his ultimate horrifying weapon against the Jedi, the Nameless. In the Fallen Star, the Nihil successfully infiltrated and sabotaged Starlight Beacon, releasing the Force-devouring creatures aboard the station itself. The resultant chaos led to the catastrophic destruction of the beacon, killing numerous Jedi and civilians, dealing a crippling blow to Republic morale and the Jedi's reputation.
A huge blow.
Massive. In the devastating aftermath, Marchion Ro used ancient technology to create the Occlusion Zone, a massive, impenetrable barrier that cut off a large portion of the Outer Rim from the rest of the galaxy, essentially holding entire systems hostage.
So the final phase chronicles the Jedi's desperate war to breach this storm wall, rescue the trapped worlds, and ultimately defeat the Nihil. But this conflict forced the Jedi to become more militaristic, didn't it? A change that troubled many within the Order, like Master Keeve Trennis.
It did. And while the Jedi were ultimately victorious and Marshino was defeated, the High Republic era ended with the Order and the Republic deeply scarred. The initial optimism was replaced by this cautious, insular, and rigid mindset, and that rigidity would directly contribute to their inability to recognize the true Sith threat nearly a century later. It's a profound lesson in how trauma can make even the wise turn inward, become less flexible.
And in the twilight of this High Republic era, around 132 BBY, the events of the upcoming series The Acolyte unfold. A series of heinous crimes against the Jedi forces a respected master to confront a dangerous warrior from his past, revealing the insidious emergence of shadowy, dark side powers that the Jedi believed long vanquished. It's like the first real ripple of that much larger wave coming.
Exactly, the beginning of the end in a way.
This era, it's a truly tragic chronicle, the final century of the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order. It's a period of systemic decay and masterful manipulation that culminates in their utter destruction. This isn't really a story of overwhelming military might defeating them. It's the Sith's ultimate victory, achieved through political cunning, spiritual deception, and the tragic fall of the prophesied Chosen One. It's like watching a slow-motion disaster unfold.
It really is. The prelude to war, spanning roughly 82 BBY to 32 BBY, sees the Sith's grand thousand-year plan enter its final critical phase. The Mune Sith, Lord Darth Plagueis, experiments with midichlorians, attempting to unlock eternal life and control the very fabric of the Force. He takes a young, ambitious Naboo human, Sheev Palpatine, as his apprentice, christening him Darth Sidious.
And Sidious demonstrating that classic Sith treachery.
Murders Plagueis in his sleep, becoming the sole Dark Lord of the Sith. As Senator Palpatine, he meticulously begins his political ascent, cultivating this public persona of a calm, reassuring leader. During this time, Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi undertake missions that reveal the growing rot within the Republic, though they can't fully grasp its true source yet.
And Master Buku.
On the Jedi Council, the esteemed Master Dooku grows increasingly disillusioned with the Order's perceived servitude to a corrupt Senate. He leads the Jedi Order and ultimately falls to the dark side, becoming Sidious's new, powerful apprentice, Darth Tyrannus, a key pawn in the game.
Then in 32 BBY, we jump right into Star Wars, Episode I, The Phantom Menace. This film marks Sidious's first major public move. He manipulates the greedy, politically influential Trade Federation to blockade and invade his own homeworld, Naboo, sparking a crisis that he can then step in to solve. He dispatches his first lethal apprentice, Darth Maul, to oversee the operation.
Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi are sent to negotiate, but are forced to flee with the planet's young, courageous queen, Padme Amidala. Their journey leads them to the desert planet Tatooine, where they discover 9-year-old slave boy Anakin Skywalker, who has a midichlorian count higher than any known Jedi. Believing him to be the prophesied Chosen One, Qui-Gon secures his freedom.
The crisis culminates in the Battle of Naboo. Padme's forces liberate the planet. Obi-Wan defeats Maul, though Qui-Gon is tragically killed, asking Obi-Wan to train Anakin with his dying breath. And in the political fallout, precisely as Sidious planned, Palpatine is elected Supreme Chancellor. Perfectly positioned.
Perfectly. A decade later, in 22 BBY, Star Wars. Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, shows us a galaxy teetering on the brink of open civil war. A separatist movement, secretly orchestrated by Sidious and publicly led by Count Dooku, gains terrifying momentum as thousands of systems threaten to secede from the Republic.
After an assassination attempt on Senator Padme Amidala, Obi-Wan Kenobi uncovers that secret clone army being grown for the Republic on the remote oceanic world of Camino. He tracks the bounty hunter Jango Fett to Geonosis, discovering the Separatist leadership and their massive battle droid army.
As the Jedi intervene, they're overwhelmed, forcing the Senate to grant Chancellor Palpatine emergency powers he'd been angling for. This allows him to activate the clone army he secretly commissioned years before. The Battle of Geonosis marks the first major engagement of the devastating Clone Wars, a conflict designed by Sidious from the start to weaken both sides and allow him to consolidate absolute power.
And for the next 3 grueling years, from 22 BBY to 19 BBY, the galaxy is utterly consumed by Star Wars. The Clone Wars, the animated film, and their incredible 7-season series. The war transforms the Jedi, doesn't it? From revered peacekeepers into reluctant generals, leading clone armies against separatist droids, pushing them further and further from their core principles.
Absolutely. This series introduces crucial characters, like Anakin's incredibly capable Padawan, Ahsoka Tano. Her journey from eager student to disillusioned exile is central, especially after she's falsely accused of treason, another of Sidious's machinations. We also see the rise and fall of Dooku's dark acolyte Asajj Ventress, the shocking return of Darth Maul building his shadow collective criminal empire.
And the deepening of Anakin and Padme's secret marriage, adding to Anakin's internal conflict.
Yes. The war itself, in all its brutality and moral compromise, forces the Jedi to bend, sometimes break their principles, pushing them further into the darkness Sidious so carefully laid out for them. It perfectly sets them up for their ultimate fall.
Finally, in 19 BBY, we reach the devastating climax in Star Wars, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. In the war's final days, as Republic forces launch the Outer Rim sieges, Chancellor Palpatine makes his ultimate decisive move. He reveals his true identity as Darth Sidious to Anakin Skywalker,
Tempting him with dark side power to save Padme from visions of her death, playing directly on his deepest fears and attachments. When the Jedi Council, led by the formidable Mace Windu, attempts to arrest Sidious, a deeply conflicted Anakin intervenes, allowing Sidious to kill Windu. This act irreversibly binds Anakin to the dark side.
Anakin's fall is complete. He pledges his allegiance to the Sith, becoming Darth Vader, the Emperor's terrifying new enforcer.
Sidious then issues Order 66, a secret command compelling clone troopers, via inhibitor chips implanted in their brains, to execute their Jedi generals. Jedi are slaughtered across the galaxy in moments. Vader marches on the Jedi Temple, killing everyone within, including younglings. Then he travels to Mustafar and assassinates the Separatist leaders, ending the war just as Palpatine planned.
With the Jedi eliminated, Palpatine addresses the Senate, declares the Jedi traitors to the Republic, and reorganizes the Republic into the First Galactic Empire, with himself as Emperor. It happens so fast.
Blindingly fast. And in a final, heartbreaking scene on Polis Massa, Padme gives birth to twins, Luke and Leia, before dying, essentially of a broken heart. The infants are separated and hidden. Obi-Wan takes Luke to Tatooine, Bail Organa takes Leia to Alderaan, carrying the last fragile hope for the galaxy.
So, with the devastating fall of the Republic and the Jedi, the galaxy plunges into its dark times, the reign of the Empire. This era, from 19 BBY right up to 0 BBY, is characterized by the Empire's brutal consolidation of power, the systematic hunting of any surviving Jedi, and the quiet, desperate, almost invisible beginnings of a rebellion. It's a period of really oppressive darkness where hope is just a dangerous, flickering flame.
Yeah, the Imperial machine begins its terrifying expansion immediately in 19 BBY. The Empire rapidly expands its military and industrial might across the entire galaxy. Clone troopers, now seen as symbols of the old Republic and perhaps less reliable, are phased out, replaced by legions of human stormtroopers, a faceless, loyal force.
And they start building massive projects.
Huge projects. Most notably, the construction of the first Death Star, a moon-sized battle station designed specifically to enforce the Tarkin Doctrine through overwhelming terror. It was overseen by director Orson Krennic, built with the unwilling genius of scientist Galen Erso, who secretly built in that fatal flaw we see exploited later.
And Vader?
Darth Vader becomes the Emperor's terrifying public enforcer. He establishes a forbidding fortress on Mustafar, the site of his defeat by Obi-Wan, and relentlessly hunts down any remaining Jedi, aided by the Inquisitorius, a new order of fallen Force-sensitive agents twisted to the dark side, specifically trained to hunt Jedi.
But even in the deepest darkness, sparks of rebellion ignite, don't they? Between 19 BBY and 5 BBY. We see the journey of Clone Force 99, the elite squad of enhanced clones, the Bad Batch. They resisted Order 66 and become mercenaries on the run, fighting for their own freedom and occasionally aiding others against the Empire.
And on the Outer Rim world of Lothal, a small, disparate group of rebels begins to form. You got Hera Syndulla, the pilot, Kanan Jarrus, a former Jedi Padawan hiding his past, Sabine Wren, the Mandalorian artist and demolitions expert, Gurazeb Aurelios, the Lasat warrior, and the grumpy but loyal Estremic Chopper. They start carrying out subversive acts against the local Imperial garrison, as chronicled in the novel A New Dawn.
Elsewhere, Jedi survivors like Cal Kestis are forced out of hiding and onto these perilous journeys, trying to perhaps restore the Jedi Order, as depicted in the video games Jedi, Fallen Order, set in 14 BBY, and Jedi Survivor, set in 9 BBY. They face the full might of the Empire, including the Inquisitors.
Right, and in Obi-Wan Kenobi, also 9 BBY, the exiled Jedi Master is dramatically drawn away from his lonely vigil over young Luke on Tatooine to rescue a kidnapped Princess Leia. This leads to a devastating, emotionally charged rematch with his former apprentice, Darth Vader.
We also see the early, roguish life of Han Solo in Solo, a Star Wars story covering roughly 1310 BBY. From his time as an Imperial cadet to his first meeting with his loyal Wookiee co-pilot Chewbacca and the smooth-talking gambler Lando Calrissian, it shows how even scoundrels get caught up in the Empire's shadow.
And these scattered efforts slowly start to coalesce. The alliance to restore the Republic is born between 5BBY and OBUBY. The critically acclaimed series Andor details the journey of Cassian Andor from a cynical, self-serving thief into a dedicated rebel intelligence officer. It showcases the gritty, clandestine, and often morally ambiguous origins of the rebellion through spies, political dissidents like Senator Mon Mothma fighting from within, and ordinary people pushed to their absolute limits. It reveals the true, desperate cost of defiance.
Yeah, Andor really fleshed out that early period.
It did. And the animated series Star Wars Rebels follows that Lothal cell as they join the larger fledgling alliance. They face formidable Imperial foes, including the brilliant, cunning Grand Admiral Thrawn and the terrifying Inquisitors. They play a crucial role in early Rebel victories, disrupting Imperial operations significantly.
But it ends on a bittersweet note, doesn't it?
Very. The series culminates with the liberation of Lothal, a major victory, but it comes at the cost of Kanan Jarrus's life. And then there's the dramatic disappearance of the young Jedi Ezra Bridger, who vanishes into the unknown regions along with Grand Admiral Thrawn, leaving this huge mystery that will echo for decades and eventually be picked up in later stories.
Okay, this is it. The moment many think of when they hear Star Wars. This is the heart of the Galactic Civil War, the Age of Rebellion. The fledgling Rebel Alliance directly challenges the overwhelming might of the Galactic Empire in a desperate struggle for freedom. This period encompasses the events of the original film trilogy, bringing us into the classic saga we all know and love.
Right. The Galactic Civil War ignites in 0BBY, in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. The Rebel Alliance, acting on that crucial intelligence from Galen Erso, launches a daring, almost suicidal mission to steal the plans for the Death Star. The Battle of Scarif results in a tactical victory for the Empire, but a devastating strategic loss for the Rebel fleet, however.
A small team, led by Jyn Erso, succeeds. They transmit the plans to Princess Leia Organa's consular ship, the Tantive V, just in the nick of time.
Darth Vader intercepts Leia's ship moments later, but not before she hides the plans and a desperate plea for help inside R2-D2. The intrepid droid, along with C-3PO, escapes in a pod to Tatooine, where they are eventually purchased by a young farm boy named Luke Skywalker.
And so Luke's journey, and really the galaxy's fate, begins in Star Wars. Episode 4, A New Hope. He discovers the message, is drawn into the conflict by the exiled Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. Together with the cynical smugglers Han Solo and Chewbacca, they rescue Princess Leia from the Death Star itself, though Obi-Wan tragically dies in a poignant duel with Vader.
The stolen plans reveal the critical weakness Galen Erso built in. In the climactic Battle of Yavin, Luke, guided by the spirit of Obi-Wan and trusting in the Force for the first time, fires the proton torpedoes that miraculously destroy the Death Star. It's this impossible victory that ignites real hope across the galaxy.
But in the wake of that stunning, if costly, victory, the rebellion is on the run, aren't they? From 0ABY to 3ABY, the Empire, enraged by the loss of its ultimate weapon, launches a massive galaxy-wide hunt for the rebels.
The adventures of Luke, Leia, and Han during this period are extensively detailed in Marvel's ongoing Star Wars comic series. It shows them clashing constantly with Vader's relentless forces, desperately searching for a new base, and Luke beginning his tentative journey to understand the Force, often guided by Obi-Wan's journals or holocrons he finds.
Then, in 3ABY, we reach the iconic Star Wars. Episode V, The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire locates the new rebel headquarters, Echo Base, on the desolate ice planet of Hoth. The ensuing Battle of Hoth is a major defeat for the Alliance, forcing another desperate evacuation.
Meanwhile, Luke Skywalker travels to Dagobah, that swampy, Force-rich world, where he begins his formal Jedi training under the ancient, cryptic, and frankly, quite quirky Master Yoda.
At the same time, Han, Leia, Chewbacca, and C-3PO are relentlessly pursued by the Imperial fleet and ruthless bounty hunters hired by Vader. They seek refuge in the stunning Cloud City on Bespin, but are tragically betrayed by its administrator Lando Calrissian, who's under duress from Vader.
Darth Vader captures the heroes and, in a truly chilling scene, freezes Han Solo in carbonite, handing him over to the notorious bounty hunter Boba Fett to deliver to Jabba the Hutt. Luke arrives, sensing his friends are in danger, and confronts Vader. This leads to the shocking, universe-altering reveal. No, I am your father.
Still gives me chills.
Right. Vader defeats Luke, severing his hand, but the young Jedi escapes with the help of Leia and Lando, who's had a change of heart. It's a moment that changes everything for Luke and for the audience.
A year later, in 4ABY, Star Wars, Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, begins with the heroes mounting a daring rescue of Han Solo from Jabba the Hutt's palace on Tatooine. Reunited, the Alliance learns that the Empire is constructing a second, even more powerful Death Star in orbit of the forest moon of Endor.
Believing it to be a trap set by the Emperor himself, but seeing it as their only chance, the entire rebel fleet masses for a decisive all-or-nothing assault.
A strike team led by Han and Leia lands on Endor to disable the station's shield generator, getting some unexpected help from the native Ewoks. Meanwhile, Luke Skywalker, seeking to redeem his father, confronts Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine aboard the battle station. He defeats his father in combat but refuses to kill him, declaring himself a Jedi, staying true to the light side ideals.
The Emperor, furious, tortures Luke with Force lightning. But this act of seeing his son suffer awakens the good still buried deep within Anakin Skywalker. Vader, finally freed from the dark side's grip, lifts the Emperor and throws him into the Death Star's reactor core, sacrificing himself to save his son. In doing so, he fulfills the Chosen One prophecy, destroying the Sith and bringing balance to the Force.
And on the surface,
the strike team destroys the shield generator. In the massive space battle above, the Rebel fleet, led by Lando and the Millennium Falcon, flies into the Death Star and destroys it from within. The Battle of Endor marks the death of the Emperor and the decisive defeat of the Empire's Central Command.
But the fighting isn't quite over yet, is it? The war truly ends in 5 ABY, which is detailed in the Aftermath trilogy of novels. The remnants of the Empire, clinging desperately to power, make their last stand at the Battle of Jakku,
which results in a crushing final defeat for the Imperial fleet. The skies above Jakku become a graveyard of Star Destroyers. The remaining Imperial leaders then sign the Galactic Concordance, formally surrendering to the newly formed New Republic. The Galactic Civil War, at long last, is officially over, and the galaxy breathes a collective, tentative sigh of relief. Right, but the fall of the Empire, while obviously a monumental victory, did not bring immediate or lasting peace to the entire galaxy. This next turbulent 3-decade period chronicles the New Republic's struggle to rebuild and govern a fractured galaxy. It also sees the rise of new heroes, often in the chaotic Outer Rim, and critically, the secret germination of a new Imperial threat from the darkness of the unknown regions. This era is a powerful lesson in just how fragile peace can be.
And this era is prominently featured in what fans affectionately call the Mandoverse, right? Roughly from 9 ABY to maybe 12 ABY, showcasing a galaxy still very much finding its feet. While the New Republic tries to restore order from its new capital on Chandrila, the Outer Rim remains largely a lawless frontier. It's a dangerous void that the central government really struggles to police effectively.
Exactly. In The Mandalorian, we follow the lone bounty hunter Din Djarin, a member of the devout Mandalorian sect called the Children of the Watch. He discovers a mysterious, incredibly force-sensitive child named Grogu. His quest to protect the child and return him to his own kind, the Jedi, brings him into contact with pivotal figures like former Jedi Ahsoka Tano and eventually a briefly returned Luke Skywalker, who takes Grogu for training.
And Din also finds himself in direct conflict with persistent Imperial remnants led by the formidable Moff Gideon, who wants Grogu for his own insidious cloning experiments. These stories vividly illustrate the New Republic's limited reach and the persistent threat of Imperial loyalists who are secretly coordinating their efforts, highlighting the immense challenges of maintaining peace across such a vast, unruly galaxy.
Then, in the Book of Boba Fett, the legendary bounty hunter, having improbably survived the Sarlacc pit, seizes control of Jabba the Hutt's former criminal empire on Tatooine, trying to rule with respect rather than fear, and navigating the treacherous underworld politics.
And in Ahsoka, the former Jedi continues her desperate search for the lost Grand Admiral Thrawn, believing he's key to preventing another war. This quest takes her and the Mandalorian Sabine Wren to another galaxy entirely. Meanwhile, back in the main galaxy, the Imperial remnants, now operating as a shadowy Shadow Council, are plotting their ominous return to power, showing a frightening level of coordinated post-Imperial activity happening right under the very nose of the fledgling New Republic.
And as we move further into this era, roughly 21 ABY to 34 ABY, we see the truly ominous rise of the First Order. Emperor Palpatine's death at Endor, well, it wasn't the end of his insidious planning. He had enacted a chilling contingency, a posthumous order for the most loyal elements of the Empire to retreat into the uncharted, dangerous, unknown regions.
So they didn't just surrender at Jakku, the most diehard elements vanish.
Precisely. There, guided by fanatical Sith cultists on the hidden world of Exegol, they would rebuild and form a new, more zealous and technologically advanced military organization, the First Order. Back in the New Republic, Senator Leia Organa becomes acutely aware of this growing threat, but her dire warnings are tragically dismissed by a complacent and politically divided Senate. This is detailed really well in the novel Bloodline. The populists and centrists are just too busy bickering to see the storm gathering on the horizon.
So Leia takes matters into her own hands.
She does. Frustrated by the New Republic's inaction and paralysis, Leia resigns from the Senate and forms the Resistance, a private military force, funded secretly by sympathetic senators, to monitor and combat the First Order, knowing that a full-scale conflict is inevitable.
Meanwhile, Luke Skywalker's attempt to rebuild the Jedi Order also ends in absolute disaster. His nephew and most promising apprentice, Ben Solo, Leia and Han's son, is seduced to the dark side by Supreme Leader Snoke.
Snoke, who we later learn is a powerful artificial being created by Palpatine to lead the First Order from the shadows, manipulating Ben's fears and insecurities. Ben destroys Luke's new Jedi temple, slaughters his fellow students, and takes the name Kylo Ren, becoming the master of the Knights of Ren.
A broken Luke, blaming himself for failing Ben, exiles himself to Ahch-To, the site of the first Jedi temple. And the galaxy is left without the Jedi once more, exactly when it needs them most. It's just a tragic echo of history repeating itself, isn't it?
Painfully so.
Okay, this is a brief but absolutely cataclysmic era.
Yeah.
The simmering Cold War between the Resistance and the First Order explodes into open, brutal conflict. This results in the swift destruction of the New Republic and a final, desperate battle against the resurrected evil of the Sith. It's the climax of everything that came before, compressed into just over a year.
Right. In 34 ABY, The Force Awakens sees the First Order make its devastating, universe-shattering move. From its mobile superweapon, Starkiller Base, an entire planet converted into a weapon capable of destroying multiple worlds at once, it fires a blast that destroys the Hosnian system.
The capital of the New Republic and the bulk of its defense fleet, crippling the galaxy's central government in one blow.
Exactly. The First Order then launches a blitzkrieg campaign to conquer the galaxy. The Resistance, led by General Leia Organa, fights back desperately, joined by new heroes. Rey, the scavenger from Jakku with that mysterious, powerful connection to the Force. Finn, the defecting stormtrooper who finds his contents. And Poe Dameron, the Resistance's ace pilot. They succeed in destroying Starkiller Base, but Han Solo is tragically killed by his own son, Kylo Ren, in a heartbreaking attempt to bring him back to the light.
Immediately following this, in The Last Jedi, the First Order fleet, now under the command of Kylo Ren and the ambitious General Hux, relentlessly pursues the last remnants of the Resistance across space, decimating their fleet down to just a handful of survivors aboard the Millennium Falcon.
Rey finds Luke Skywalker in Ahch-To and desperately seeks training, while Kylo Ren, in a shocking move, assassinates Supreme Leader Snoke and seizes control of the First Order himself, declaring himself the new Supreme Leader.
And Luke's final act?
In a final, incredibly powerful confrontation, Luke Skywalker projects his image across the galaxy, using the Force to face Kylo Ren on the planet Crate. He sacrifices his life, becoming one with the Force, but buys precious time, allowing the last few members of the Resistance to escape. The animated series Star Wars Resistance provides a look at this period from the perspective of pilots on the Colossus refueling station, showing the broader impact of the First Order's sudden rise and the fear it instilled.
Then just 1 year later, in 35 ABY, Star Wars, Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker brings a truly shocking revelation and the final confrontation. A mysterious broadcast echoes across the galaxy, the chilling voice of the long-dead Emperor Palpatine. He has returned somehow, operating from the hidden Sith world of Exegol.
Where his fanatical followers, the Sith Eternal, have constructed a massive fleet of planet-killing star destroyers called the Final Order, each equipped with Death Star technology.
Kylo Ren finds Palpatine, who reveals the truth. He created Snoke, he manipulated the First Order from the beginning, a puppet master pulling all the strings from the shadows. Palpatine orders Kylo to find and kill Rey, who is then revealed to be Palpatine's granddaughter,
giving her this direct, terrifying lineage to the ultimate evil. The Resistance, guided by Leia's final instructions before she becomes one with the Force, races to find the way to Exegol. The final battle for the fate of the galaxy takes place in the terrifying, lightning-filled skies above the Sith world.
A redeemed Ben Solo joins Rey, and together they confront the resurrected Emperor, just as all seems lost.
A massive fleet of civilian ships from across the entire galaxy, summoned by Lando Calrissian and Chewbacca, arrives to help the beleaguered Resistance fleet, turning the tide. Rey, hearing the voices of all past Jedi, channels their power and destroys Palpatine forever. Ben Solo, mortally wounded, uses his remaining life force to resurrect Rey in a final act of love and redemption before he too becomes one with the Force.
With the Sith truly defeated and the First Order's command structure shattered, the galaxy rises up in celebration, overthrowing First Order garrisons on countless worlds. Rey travels to Tatooine, Luke's childhood home, buries the Skywalker lightsabers, and, adopting their name, looks to the twin suns, representing the future as Rey Skywalker, the last Jedi. So, after all that cataclysmic conflict, the end of the Skywalker saga as we knew it, what does this all mean for the immediate future of the Star Wars galaxy? The official canon timeline currently extends only a short time beyond the defeat of the Final Order and Palpatine. The state of the galaxy is one of renewed hope, yes, but also one of immense rebuilding and uncertainty, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Approximately 50 ABY, which is 15 years after the Battle of Exegol, the galaxy is indeed still recovering from the First Order's brief but brutal reign and Palpatine's terrifying return. Rey Skywalker, carrying the weight of the past and the hope for the future, has begun the difficult and essential task of building a new Jedi Order. Her mission is to seek out and train a new generation of Force sensitives in the ways of the light, presumably trying to learn from the mistakes of the Jedi Orders that came before her.
And the future of this era is set to be explored in an upcoming yet untitled film, right? Promising to show us whether Rey can truly break those cycles of history we talked about.
That seems to be the direction, yes. It's fertile ground for new stories, exploring what rebuilding actually looks like after so much destruction, and what kind of Jedi Order Rey will forge.
Wow. What an incredible, sweeping journey we've taken. From the Prime Jedi on Ahch-To, all the way to Rey Skywalker, looking to the future on Tatooine. This chronicle truly gives us a sense of the vastness and the deeply interwoven nature of Star Wars history. But beyond the dates and names, what's the core profound insight here? What does it all mean?
I think what's truly fascinating, and perhaps the greatest lesson when you look at it all laid out like this, is that the grand chronicle of the Star Wars galaxy is in its essence a story of cycles. It is a history that doesn't really move in a straight line, but rather in this great repeating spiral. Empires rise and fall, Jedi orders flourish and wither, but the fundamental struggle, it always seems to resurface.
Oh, I totally see it now, like a pattern etched into the very fabric of the Force itself. The rise and fall of republics and empires, the ebb and flow of the Jedi and the Sith, that constant recurring struggle between light and darkness. These aren't just isolated events. They're echoes of one another across millennia. Each iteration is subtly different, sure, but fundamentally similar in many ways. It really makes you wonder if certain mistakes are just destined to be repeated over and over.
Exactly. You consider the subtle hubris and the growing rigidity of a High Republic Jedi, which directly foreshadows the blindness and the institutional failings of their prequel-era descendants. The tyrannical, fear-based methods of the Galactic Empire are shockingly reborn in the fanaticism and the superweapon obsession of the First Order.
And the desperate hope of a small rebellion against an overwhelming, technologically superior force. That's a story told and retold, isn't it? From the Battle of Yem right up to the Battle of Exegol.
It is. This cyclical nature speaks to the core, enduring themes of the saga. It reveals universal truths about power, temptation, corruption, and resilience.
So, what does this all mean for us, for the enduring lessons we can take away from this epic history? It tells us, first and foremost, that history is a profound lesson. It needs to be constantly revisited and learned from, lest we repeat its darkest chapters.
And that freedom isn't some static state you achieve and then forget about. It's a precious, fragile thing that must be perpetually defended, often against the insidious encroachment of seemingly benevolent powers, or sometimes the overt tyranny of others.
And that even in the absolute darkest of times, when the galaxy seems completely lost, the actions of just a few individuals, guided by hope, by courage, by a belief in something greater than themselves, can absolutely change the fate of the galaxy. It's a real testament to individual will against overwhelming odds.
Definitely. This entire timeline isn't merely a sequence of events. It's a testament to the enduring power of myth. It's a profound reminder that the struggle for balance within oneself, within society, and within the very force of the galaxy is eternal, and it's never truly won for good. It requires constant vigilance.
So, as one chapter closes with the final, definitive fall of the Sith and the promise of a new Jedi Order under Rey Skywalker, the echoes of the past assure us that the story is far from over.
And this raises a really important question for you, the listener, to ponder as you reflect on this journey. What profound lessons from this entire chronicle, from the triumphs and the tragedies of millennia, what lessons might Rey Skywalker need to internalize most as she undertakes the immense task of building a new Jedi Order? How might understanding these historical cycles truly guide her, or perhaps challenge her, in creating a future for the Force that finally breaks free from that repeating spiral?
That's the ultimate test of wisdom, isn't it?
It really is.
What a powerful thought to ponder. We've navigated the great canon divide, anchored our timeline with the galactic standard calendar, explored the foundational pillars of the Force, the Jedi, the Sith, and the galaxy's political powers. And we've embarked on an incredible chronological deep dive into each major era. We genuinely hope this journey has provided you with clarity and maybe some significant aha moments, giving you a fresh perspective on the vast Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah, and with this newfound framework, we really encourage you to revisit your favorite Star Wars stories, or maybe explore some new ones, seeing them through the lens of this grand, interconnected history. Perhaps you might even dive into some of the specific books, comics, or series we've mentioned, now knowing exactly where they fit into the bigger picture. There's honestly so much more to discover with this deeper understanding.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the galaxy far, far away. Until next time, may the Force be with you.